Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Let's Wrestle with Ink and Paper blog. I hope you are all doing well today. I am relaxing in my reading chair talking to you guys, so the day cannot be too bad. I am coming with a video today. So I did a couple videos ago, the 6 short books to break a slump. This video I'm calling 6 long books to get lost in. How does that sound? I have decided that in August I'm going to try to read some of the bigger books that have kind of been sitting on my TBR that I want to get to, but just because of their length, I've been kind of putting them off. And so I'm going to try to get to them in August. I may not read as many books in August, but at least I'll get some of these big books off my TBR, and I really want to read a lot of them. So one of them is actually at the end of this list. Most of these books I've read, actually all of them but one, I have read. So here are 6 books that I think if you get started in, you are just going to get lost in, and you won't stop reading them until they're done. The first book I'm going to tell you about is The Interestings by Meg Wolitzer. Now, this is actually the only Meg Wolitzer I've ever read, and I need to rectify that because in this book, she really proved to me she can write a story. This is the tale of 4 friends who go to summer camp together as teenagers, and then they grow up together. And it's kind of how their lives interchange. Now, they're all artistic in nature, and some of them are successful, some of them are not. Some of them have to make different life changes. Some of them are able to become so successful that their art becomes sort of the symbol of who they are as people. And it's an interesting sort of meditation on how do people who have the same dreams deal with the success of others that get their dreams, made, and then how do the people who have been successful treat those who did not get sort of what they wanted in life. This novel is fantastically written. It is, I wouldn't say that it's really plot driven, but it's really character driven. It's really about these people and what their dreams and their lives are. And I just remember really caring about every single one of these 4 friends. So I really enjoyed it, and I think you would too. It's a super easy book to read, so you can get lost in it fairly simple, and that is The Interestings by Meg Wolitzer. The next book I'm going to tell you about is kind of older. I don't actually, when did this book come out? I don't even remember. I want to say it came out in the 80s. It won the Pulitzer. Let me tell you what it is first. That's All the King's Men by Robert Penn Warren. Now, Robert Penn Warren, interestingly enough, is one of the few people that has the distinction of winning the Pulitzer both in poetry. So it was originally published in 1946. He won the Pulitzer in poetry, and then he won the Pulitzer in fiction, which very rarely ever happens. And this is the story of Willie Stark, and it's based on a true-life guy named Huey Kingfish Long of Louisiana. Sorry, it's been a while since I've read it, but this is a political drama. If you like House of Cards, I would almost say this is like reading a whole entire season of House of Cards. Willie Stark goes into becoming a politician with all these bright eyes, bushy-tailed, going to be that one who changes the land and holds the law, and basically just more and more corruption enter into his life. He becomes, I want to say, the mayor of a town and sort of gets involved with the wrong people and does some really horrible things. It was also a movie with Sean Penn. This is the movie cover. And I will tell you, you will be on the edge of your seat. It's kind of like one of those, it's a thriller, but it's not like a murder mystery thriller. It's really about corruption in the government. How long can they get away with what they're doing? And if you read a little bit about Huey Kingfish Long, he went a long time doing what he wanted to do. So this book is really good. I have it marked all over. There are fantastic sentences. It's brilliantly written. And it just makes some timely assessments about the political system and you may see a little bit of the world we live in this book, and you may also see some of the society things that we are dealing with in this novel and some commentary on that still is very relevant today. So it's a long one. I think it's 600 pages. Yeah, 632 or 40 pages, something like that. But I'm telling you, you will get involved and you'll want to know what's going to happen next, and it is so very good. And that's All the King's Men by Robert Penn Warren. You can get this at your library or at a used bookstore. I am 100% sure. And really dive into something to end your summer. The next book I'm going to tell you about is probably in my top 10 favorite books that I have ever read, and that's The Adventures of Kavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. Now, if you haven't read this book, it saddens me because it is so freaking brilliant. This is the story of two men in New York who meet and start a comic book. So there's kind of two tales going on here. It's the story of their comic book and the publication, all of the sort of the intrigue of that industry during this time period. They create a character that goes on to be very famous. It's also about them and their art and ownership of that art. It's also about their lives. There are choices they make. There are, how do I say it? Each of them has their own things that they need to deal with as far as romance, family, decisions. There is one twist that really just happens from a family angle that I did not see coming and is brilliantly told. It is fantastically written, beautiful sentences, great descriptions of New York. I think it's set in 1930s. Yeah, so end of the 1930s and the 1940s and then forward. So this picture of New York is just there in your head. You feel like you walk down the streets with these people. You feel like you draw the cartoons as they draw the cartoons. You feel like their ups and downs are your ups and downs. If you haven't read it, I mean, really, you need to. Actually, you need to read all these books. So I don't know what I'm saying. I keep telling you that. But this book is probably in my top 10 favorites. It also won the Pulitzer, I want to say. Yeah, I think it did. And it is freaking fantastic. You will not put it down, even though it is long. I promise you. It's so good. And that is The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. This book is a shout out to my friend Michael Kindness, and a book that I wouldn't have read unless it was because of him, and that's Any Human Heart by William Boyd. Now this book is actually not as long. It's only like 480 pages, but it's dense, so it feels like it's longer because it really gets you involved. And it's the story of Logan Mountstuart. I'm saying that wrong, but you know. What I'll say for this is it's told in letters or diaries. So it's kind of you going through time, and you'll skip big chunks and there will be holes, and you kind of have an unreliable narrator because he's not telling you the whole story. There's a lot of reflection. There's a lot of memory. So you know, as people, when we're trying to remember things, we get things wrong. And so it's just the story of a boy growing up into a man and who he becomes as a person, and sort of the world as it changes him and he changes it. Does that make sense? It is, God, I keep saying this. All of these books are fantastically written. None of them will disappoint you. I think if you just want a book where you follow a man or a boy as he becomes a man, and you really want to just know his life, and you want to get involved in the decisions he makes and why he makes them and who he is, this is the book for you. And it is so good. And that's Any Human Heart by William Boyd. I know a lot of people will tell you to read this book, so ask around. And again, this book has been out for a while. It's in every library. It is in every used bookstore. I promise. It's easy to get a hold of, and you really should go read it. The next book I mentioned in my LGBT video that I talked about literature, and I said this was an honorable mention, and that's The Art of Fielding by Chad Harbach. And the reason it was kind of an honorable mention is that the fact that it has an LGBT sub-story has very little to do with the actual plot. This is the story of Henry, who gets a scholarship to play baseball at college, and he has always been told, and he's very good, so he's always been told that he's going to play baseball, and sort of the story of what if your dream isn't the dream that has been placed on you. It's also the story of his roommate, and it's set at a university, so there's all this university drama. The roommate gets involved in a very illicit affair that is not something he should get involved in, but he goes wholeheartedly into it. I want to say there is also a character who is the dean. I think that's the word. I'm worried about I'm using the wrong word, so don't quote me. But who also has his own agenda, who is fantastic. This book is so good. I don't recommend books about sports very often. I'm not a sports guy. I say that. I'm not a sports and literature guy. I'm a huge sports guy. Come on, college basketball, college football. I'm a huge tennis fan. But I don't usually like books about sports because I feel like it gets bogged down in the sport. And that doesn't happen here. The sport is a metaphor and really not the focus of the story. But there are some great scenes on the baseball diamond, so it's really good. And that's The Art of Fielding by Chad Harbach, and it is so, so, so very good. And the last book I'm going to tell you about is the one that I haven't read and the one that I want to read. And it kind of popped up again today for me, and that is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I haven't told you guys yet, but I have an utter crush on Roxane Gay. And she is one of my favorite authors. I have seen her a number of times. I have all of her books signed, and I have read everything but her short story collection, and I just adore her. And today on Twitter, she said that she was reading Pachenko by Min Jin Lee and that she was loving it. Well, then at the end of the day, she stopped and she said, I finished it. She gave it 5 stars. She said she read it in one sitting all day long. This is all she did. And this book is long. This book is 480 some odd pages long. So to read that in a day, that's quite an investment. And when Roxane Gay gives a book 5 stars, you should pay attention. Now, if you remember, I talked about this before, but just in case, it is the story of a girl in Korea who gets pregnant by a man who refuses to marry her. So she's kind of given a deal by a Japanese sort of preacher who is syphilitic. Is that the right word? Is that how you say it? Syphilitic? And he offers to marry her and bring her to Japan. And from that point forward, you follow this family throughout the history in Japan, and you learn how people are treated in Japan when they are not Japanese by birth. There is a whole discussion about Korean Japanese. There are a lot of multi-generational Korean Japanese that for years didn't have the same rights as Japanese citizens. And Pachinko is a game that is played, and this beautiful, beautiful cover is kind of an example of it. And it's run a lot by Korean Japanese, and it sort of has a negative connotation to it, but it's also one of the most lucrative or businesses in the entire country. So it's kind of this juxtaposition of all these Japanese who play the game, are absorbed in the game, but look down on the Korean Japanese who are the ones running it. It's fascinating for me to think about the idea of race in a foreign country where the people who live there were brought in and sort of have this. They've been there for generations, but because of their background, don't have the same rights. It's just so interesting. I met Min Jin Lee. She actually signed my book, and I adore her. And she was fascinating. If you have a chance, I know she's still going around for the book. Really see it. And so this is a book that I'm definitely going to read in August because I want to read it. Roxane Gay told me to read it, and everyone I know says it's fantastic. And that's Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. And that is six big old chunksters to get lost into. So have you read any of these? Let's talk about them. Recommend them to other people. If there are big chunkster books that you think, hey, Russell, they should be on your radar, tell me below. If you are a return to my channel, thank you so much. I appreciate every time you view. And if you are new to my channel, thank you so much. I hope you subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. And have a great day. Happy reading, and we'll talk later.